about to board the Mark Twain Riverboat here in Hannibal, Missouri.
Welcome aboard the Riverboat, Mark Twain. We're presently headed upbound or northbound. You're on the Mississippi River. And while we're out here today, I'm going to try to point out to you some of the different sites along the waterfront of Hannibal. Start off by looking to our left. You see the street that runs up into town. That is Hill Street. If you go a couple of blocks up Hill Street, you find Mark Twain's boyhood home, Becky Thatcher's home, that famous fence, Big River Train Town, and lots of other shops and buildings. And right here next to the levee will be the annual mud volleyball tournament. Now, if you'd like to watch mud volleyball, it's volleyball played in Mississippi River mud. It'll start tomorrow evening around 5 o'clock. To our left, got this building built up off the ground. It's the Hannibal Boat Club. It's built up high like this, not for the view, but to stay out of the reach of floodwaters. When it was originally built, it sat a whole lot closer to the ground. We had a flood, it got wet, and it had to be rebuilt. They thought they had built it high enough that it would never flood again. But the flood of 1993 put 2 feet of water inside the building, and that's because the flood of 93 was topped out 19 feet higher. And the river is right now. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the boat that you're riding on. The Mark Twain was built at the Dubuque Boiler and Boat Works in Dubuque, Iowa. It was christened the Huck Finn and taken south to New Orleans, where it ran as an excursion boat for the Stratfus Steamers Company. In 1982, the Mark Twain Riverboat Company purchased the vessel and we brought it to Hannibal. This boat measures 120 feet long, 33 feet wide. We get your cameras ready, because to our left, up on top of the hill, coming into view right now, you'll see the small white lighthouse that stands there. This lighthouse is not an official aid to navigation. It's a tribute to Hannibal's most famous citizen, Mark Twain. The original lighthouse. The first one is the Mark Twain Memorial Highway Bridge. It's a 4-lane structure that connects Interstate 72 in Illinois with Highway 36 in Missouri. It was opened on September 16th of the year 2000 after about 5 years of construction. Now they tell us it only cost $51.5 million to build it. Further upstream is the old Wabash Train and Wagon Bridge. It was built in 1871 at a cost of $1 million. And it is the second oldest structure to cross the upper Mississippi. It is now operated by the Norfolk Southern Railway. If we were to continue going upstream against the current, traveling a distance of just 66 miles, well, it's going to take us about 18 hours. But we get to a town called Riverview, Illinois. Now heading downstream, going with the current, traveling 128 miles in 20 hours, we could be looking at Gateway Irish. Also, remember, turn, look back at the highway bridge. On the bridge pier, do you see numbers? Randall is the smaller of those 2 boats. It has 1,000 horsepower and can easily push 3 loaded barges at one time. Look off ahead of us there. On the Missouri bank, you'll notice there's a large, long, flat area. It runs downstream along the bluff for better than a mile. Now this is what's left of the Burlington Railroad Yard. It used to be one of the busiest railroad yards in northeast Missouri. They would switch hundreds of cars every day here. They got tired of being flooded every spring, so they moved 17 miles north to higher ground, where they flooded in 93. Well, overlooking that old railroad yard is a tree-covered bluff with a rather unique rock formation protruding out toward the river. Now here in Hannibal, we call this Lover's Leap. If you were to travel up and down the river, you would find many bluffs or cliffs or ledges like this. And 9 times out of 10, they are going to be known as Lover's Leap. Hannibal's Leap, however, is authenticated by an old Indian legend, and I'd like to share that legend the way it was told to me by an old riverboat pilot named Captain Harold Esky. He told me this story 45 years ago, back when I started my apprenticeship under him to become a riverboat pilot. The two most often asked river-related questions that we get are how deep is the water and how wide is the river here at Hannibal. Now back up behind us at the highway bridge, the river is about 3/8 of a mile across. This is one of the narrower sections of the river. That's why you see the bridges built there. Where we're at right now is closer to 1/2 mile wide, but it's hard to tell it because of the islands to our left. The pilot aboard the vessel then knew they had at least 12 feet of water to run through, and this was considered safe water for their boats. Sam Clemens was on the river for 4 years. First 2 years as an apprentice, last 2 as the pilot in command, including the Panama Canal, the Empire State Building, the Edward Jones Dome, which is now the America Center Dome in St. Louis, and just about every driveway, sidewalk, and highway that's in the Hannibal area. We're making our turn to head back upstream. We're crossing that imaginary dotted line down the center of the river channel. It separates the states of Missouri and Illinois. We're going to head back up here on the Illinois side, and in just a little bit, well, I'm going to tell you about some islands. When 3 local families teamed up. They purchased it, they renovated it, and in 1967 they opened it for public tour and special events. Today it has new owners, but it remains open for public tours, special events, and is also now operated as a bed and breakfast. We've come to that point in the trip where I'm supposed to be quiet. I'm going to let y'all just kind of sit back and relax. We'll listen to the breeze through the trees. And now that we're in close to the island, if you watch carefully, you might just see a few of the critters that live right here on Jackson's Island. And the island to our right became Jackson's Island. And we're sure this is Jackson's Island. If you were to put a couple of young people on a raft up around our landing, you set them paddling for Illinois. The current is going to set them down to just about the middle of this island, much in the same way that Sam Clemens and his friends came out here. Now, nobody lives on the islands. They flood most every spring. They're all owned by the federal government, and you're welcome to come out and camp and fish off of them if you can find a way out here. Now it seems that the young brave's name was Falling Rock. And even today, as you travel through the state of Missouri, you still see signs that say, watch for Falling Rock. And now you know the rest of the Lover's Leap story. And I'd like a show of hands of all of those of you that have figured out that I'm just about out of good things to tell you. So once again, I'll just be quiet here in the pilot house. Tradition to uphold while we're out here today, which is to blow our landing whistles. Landing whistles were a tradition among the boats during Mark Twain's day, and each boat had their own signal so the people in town would know which boat was arriving. Well, now everybody in Hannibal pretty much knows when the Mark Twain comes back. We uphold tradition by blowing our signal. It is a long, two shorts, a long and a short. It's from the Eagle Packet Company out of Alton, Illinois. They were one of the biggest packet boat companies during Mark Twain's day and many years thereafter. They're no longer in business, so we have adopted their signal as our own. And we'll blow that now. If you're outside the forward of the pilot house, now's a real good time to cover your ears. Okay, traditions are upheld, so we can now head into the landing. And as we approach our landing, we invite you to visit some of the other attractions that we have in the area. Now, the Mark Twain and Cameron Caves, the Mark Twain boyhood home, and museums, and all the fine shops and buildings that are in and around the historic district.
The Mark Twain Riverboat. Now at Lover's Leap, here on the banks of the Mississippi River in Hannibal, Missouri. Looking down on Hannibal, Missouri. It's the Interstate 72 bridge, crossing back to Illinois. Here's my hotel, the Best Western. Have not checked in yet. That's the railroad bridge. the Veterans Memorial here in Hannibal.